Nanach nachman meuman. Lekutei lesson number 17. They were emptying their sacks, and lo and behold, each one's bundle of money was in his sack. They saw their bundles of money, they and their fathers, and they feared. Their father Jacob then said to them, "You have bereaved me. Joseph is gone, Shimon is gone. Now you want to take Benjamin. All this has befallen me." Number one, it is impossible to attain fear and love other than through the tzaddikim of the generation. Nanach, nachma, meuman. The tzaddik, nach, nachma, meuman of the generation is the one. Is the one who feels fear and love for the tzaddik. Nanach, nachman, meuman always he sings and searches to reveal God's desire. Yes. There is a divine will in everything, both in creation as a whole, in that God desired to create the world in its totality and also in its details. In each and every particular, there is a divine will, that is that God desires it to be so, with this form, with this power, and with this nature. Betmuna, teva. Tmuna koyach v'teva. With this form, with this power, and with this nature, something else has a different form, a different power, and a different nature and behavior. Nanach, nachman, nachman, meuman. The tzaddik, nanach, nachman meuman, always seeks and searches for those wills to perceive and understand God's will in each thing. For example, why did God desire that the lion should have such power and strength? With such a form, and with such a nature and behavior peculiar to a lion. On the other hand, the small mosquito has very little strength and has a different nature, form, and behavior. The same applies to the details of the details. Take, for example, the lion itself. Why does this limb of the lion have such form, power, and nature as it does, while another limb has a different form, different strength, and different nature and behavior? And the same goes for all other creatures in the world, whether inanimates, vegetative animates, or human. They all have countless many differences between each other, and each and every one of them are there, and in each and every one of them there are countless details between each and every limb. Similarly with plants and trees and other organisms in creation, they all have very many differences in their forms, strengths, and behaviors. All this is on account of God's will. He desired that one thing should be like this and another like that. The tzaddik, nanach, nachman, meuman, always seeks for these wills, perceiving and finding them by way of the grandeur that he finds in the Jewish people as a whole, and in each individual, and in the smallest details. This is because the entire world was only created for the sake of Israel, as our sages said in the beginning, first for the sake of Israel. In the beginning, first for the sake of Israel, who are called the first. The Jewish people were the first to rise in God's consciousness. That is, that God foresaw that the pride and pleasure that he would receive from the Jewish people. As the verse says, Israel, I take pride in you. For this reason, he created the entire world. Hence, the entire world was only created for the sake of the pride that God receives from the Jewish people regarding the totality of creation. This means that the totality of creation was for the sake of the collective pride that God would receive from the Jewish people. And the details of creation were for the sake of the particular pride he would receive from each Jew, and each and every single individual Jew. There is a specific pride that God receives from his people, even from the lowliest Jew, and even from Jewish sinners. As long as one is considered a Jew, since one is called a Jewish sinner, one possesses a unique source of pride from which God can receive pride specifically from him. The same applies to the smallest details in the individual limbs, and in each and every movement of a Jew there is a unique source of pride. Sometimes a lowly Jew can twist his sidelock payas, and God will take pride, great pride, even from this. The tzaddik, nanach, nachman, nachma, meuman, by always seeking and searching, finds the pride that the Jewish people possess, collectively, individually, in the smallest details, and in every limb and movement of each and every Jew. Oh, yeah, in this way, yeah, the tzaddik, nanach, nachman, nachma, meuman, knows and perceives all of God's intentions in all of creation, in general, specifically, and in the smallest details. For all of his intentions in all of creation were all for the sake of the pride that he receives from the Jewish people. Each and every existing thing was created in his will, with its power, with its nature, and with its behavior, according to the pride that is to be found in each and every Jew. Thus, when he knows and finds the pride that the Jewish people possess collectively, individually, and in the details of each individual, he knows all of God's intentions in the totality of creation, in the individuals of creation, and in the particulars of each individual. For the pride that God receives from the Jewish people is the source of creation, that is the collective pride from the collective entity of the Jewish people. The pride God takes from the Jewish people as a whole is the collective root of the totality of creation. Similarly, regarding the pride from the individuals, the pride God takes from each and every individual Jew, this is the root of that thing that was created for the sake of that individual pride. And similarly, with the details of each individual, God's deriving pride from the smallest details of each limb and movements of each individual Jew. This is the root of the details of creation, of each and every aspect of each limb, of each and every organism. In sum, the essence of creation was for the sake of the pride that God will receive from the Jewish people. This pride is the root and life force of all of creation, collectively, individually, and in the details of each individual. All of God's intention in creating His world in its totality and its individuals, and in the details of the individuals was all for the sake of the pride that He receives from the Jewish people, collectively, individually, and from the details of each of them. The totality of creation was created in the form, order, and behavior in which the totality of creation exists. For the totality of the pride that God receives from the totality of the Jewish people. Similarly, each and everything was created in its form and in its nature according to the individual pride that God receives from each and every individual Jew, and the same applies to the details of each individual thing. Therefore, the tzaddik, nanach, nachman, nachma, meuman, by way of his finding the pride that God always receives from the Jewish people, collectively, individually, and from the details of each individual, thereby knows the reason for all the intentions God had in all of creation, collectively, individually, etc., etc. Understand this well, for this is a very deep concept from which you will be able to understand God's greatness and the greatness of the Jewish people and the greatness of the true tzaddikim, nanach, nachma, meuman, how they perceive the world, knowing the reason for the form, power, behavior of each and every plant or thing in existence, down to the smallest of its details. As said, for this reason I have expounded and repeated myself, due to the great subtlety and depth of the concept, and by way of the tzaddik, nanach, nachma, nachma, meuman, revealing the pride that God receives from His people Israel, by way of which all His intentions in creation are revealed, fear and love are revealed. For when the pride is revealed, fear is revealed. Thus, when the pride that the Jewish people take in God is revealed, fear descends. For this pride is paris of the Jewish people is an aspect of tefillin, which are called pride, by way of which fear is revealed. As our sages said, how do we know that the tefillin are the might of the Jewish people? From the verse, all the peoples of the world will see that God's name is called upon you and will fear you. Thus, when the pride that the Jewish people take in God is revealed, fear this. And similarly, when the pride that God receives from the Jewish people is revealed, this pride being an aspect of God's tefillin, as our sages said, how do we know that God lays tefillin, etc.? For God's pride in the Jewish people is written. For God's pride in the Jewish people is written in His tefillin, as we are taught in God's tefillin. It is written, "Who is like your people Israel?" This pride causes fear of God to be. This pride causes fear of God to be revealed. Through this, fear is revealed even upon the heavenly beings. For the truth is, though everyone is surely afraid and anxious of the king, nevertheless, on the anniversary of the king's coronation, when he dons his splendid garments, fear is revealed even more. Though everyone knows of the king, the soul reacts much more strongly to actually seeing him. This means that anything one sees with one's eyes makes a greater impression on the soul than simply one's knowing about it without seeing it. In this case, if one were to be told about the king's greatness, though one would know the facts clearly, nevertheless, the soul is not impressed to fear the king as much as it is when it actually sees the king with its own eyes dressed in his splendid garments and leading the armies. This arouses a greater fear. This arouses a greater fear, for the soul is more aroused by sight. Therefore, by way of the tzaddik, nanach, nachma, meuman, revealing the pride that God receives from the Jewish people, which corresponds to the anniversary of the king's coronation, when the kingship was born. For the essence of the aspect of kingship is only through the Jewish people who accept his kingship, since there is no king without a people. Then on the anniversary of the coronation, when this pride in the Jewish people is revealed, anyone who sees this is impressed, and fear is revealed and falls upon them, including upon the heavenly beings. This is alluded to in His pride is upon the Jewish people. When His pride upon the Jewish people is revealed, then His might is upon the heavens. Might corresponds to fear. As said, how do we know that the tefillin are the might? That is, that fear is revealed even upon the heavenly beings, for the soul of the one who sees it is impressed. And when pride is revealed, which corresponds to fear being revealed, the divine will is then revealed, which is an aspect of love. For it is customary for a king, the divine will is then revealed, which is an aspect of love. For it is customary for a king on the anniversary of his coronation, when he dons his splendid garments, at which time great fear falls upon everyone, and everyone is anxious and trembling before him, to afterwards reveal goodwill to each and every individual, distributing and giving out gifts to each one according to his status, according to the goodwill and love that the king has for each and every individual. This is an aspect of love. And just as when the tzaddikim nach, nachman, meuman reveal the pride that God receives from the Jewish people, by way of which they reveal the divine will and each and everything, so too on the anniversary of the coronation, when pride is revealed, the divine will is also revealed. For God then reveals His will to each and every individual, giving them gifts and elevating their stature, each one according to His will. This is an aspect of the revelation of love. For initially, when pride was revealed, fear and fright fell upon everyone. But then, when they see the king's goodwill and his closeness to each and every one, they then come close to him and love him. That is, just as the pride that God derives from the Jewish people is the cause of all the divine intentions in creation, so is the fear that is brought about by the revelation of this pride the cause of those intentions being revealed, in that the king is then appeased with each and every individual and brings him close with his goodwill. This is an aspect of love. Hence fear and love are drawn by the tzaddik. Nanach, nachma, nachman, meuman, who reveals God's pride, by way of which he finds all the intentions that God had, and all of creation, by way of which fear and love are brought about. This is alluded to in, you are the tifedes, splendor, pride of their might. And with your will, our stature is exalted. You are the tifedes, splendor, pride of their might. And with your will, our stature is exalted. The pride of their might represents the fear that is revealed by way of the pride being revealed. For it corresponds fear, as said, as a result, with your will, our stature is exalted, for he reveals his goodwill and elevates the stature of each and every individual, which is a manifestation of love. Hence the tzaddik, nanach, nachma, nachman, meuman, hence the tzaddik. Hence the tzaddik is the one who reveals fear and love. Number 2, but fear or love sometimes become hidden from a person. As in, I will clothe the skies with darkness, and make a sackcloth their garments. The skies, shemayim, represent fire and water, and mayim, that is fear and love. When they become clothed with darkness and are concealed and clothed with sackcloth. Meaning that love, meaning that love and fear become hidden. This is because the light of the tzaddik, nanach, nachma, nachman, meuman, through whom we receive fear and love, has become hidden from this person. This is because the light of the tzaddik, nanach, nachma, nachman, meuman, is sometimes hidden from a person, and he does not merit understanding or seeing his great light, even when he is in the tzaddik's presence. Nanach, nachma, nachman, meuman, he cannot experience, understand, or see the tzaddik's great light, nach, nachma, nachman, meuman, by way of which he would be able to attain the ultimate good, as we see regarding Ephraim. As we see regarding Ephraim, although the site of Machpelah cave is the gateway to the Garden of Eden, the pathway through which all souls must ascend, and its light is very great. Nevertheless, as far as Ephraim was concerned, it was a dark and dingy place, which is why he sold it so gladly. Which is why he sold it so gladly to Abraham. Similarly, the light of the tzaddik, nanach, nachma, nachman, meuman, can also be concealed, though it shines through all the worlds. And certainly in this world, nevertheless, it may not shine at all for a certain person, but is on the contrary dark for him. This is because of the foulness of his actions and the foolishness of his mind. Due to his evil deeds, his mind becomes darkened with foolishness, that is, with mistaken ideas and foreign wisdoms. As the verse says, they are wise to do evil and know not to do good. Because of their evil deeds, they are unable to utilize their minds to do good, but only to do evil. Then because of the foolishness of the mind, they are unable to see or understand the light of the tzaddik. Nanach, nachma, nachman, meuman. Number 3, rectifying this, subduing and eradicating the foolishness of the mind, is through an aspect of the altar. The klipos, the realm of evil and foolishness, are essentially sustained only by an aspect of the altar, that is, through an aspect of eating. For a person's table atones for him like the altar, that is, the source of their essential sustenance. Therefore, Even after an upright person has eaten, he will inevitably experience some confusion after the meal, since foolishness derives its sustenance from there. However, one must not give sustenance to the klipos beyond what they absolutely need, and no more than when the altar is rectified. When one eats fittingly and properly, the klipos are subdued, for one does not give them their power, give them power and sustenance beyond what they absolutely need, which is unavoidable to give them as no one, but one does not give them any power or sustenance beyond what they need. Therefore, by eating properly, foolishness is subdued and intelligence is exalted, as we find Rav Nachman explaining to Rava that the reason why he did not answer his question the day before was because he had not eaten meat. Implied is that since he hadn't eaten, his mind was not clear, for eating subdues foolishness and raises intelligence However, when one eats gluttonously, which corresponds to blemishing the altar, the klipos are able to derive sustenance beyond what they need, which causes foolishness to overwhelm intelligence, which is countered by eating properly. As said, this is alluded to in the altar is in the portion of the torah. Of the torah, sustainer, as in he provided tative sustenance for those who fear him, representing eating properly, by way of which we subdue and are toiref, literally eat alive as a beast of prey. The klipos and foolishness, but when we blemish the altar, when we blemish eating, we empower foolishness, transforming toiref into tative, insanity, which then overwhelms us. Number 4, now the altar is repaired by way of proselytes, because all idolatry is empowered by the blemish of the altar. This is the meaning of in all places incense and offerings are brought for my name, for though they are idolaters, all their power comes from blemishes in the altar. Therefore God says, incense and offerings are brought for my name, their power comes from the holy spark of the altar of holiness that fell among them, and by way of proselytes, by each one casting aside his faith and embracing the faith of Israel, the idolatry that came into being due to the blemish in parts of the altar is subdued. Then the sparks of these parts of the altar return to their places, and the altar is perfected. This is alluded to in he will not lie down until he has eaten tative and drank the blood of corpses, which the Targum translates as inherit the wealth of nations. Eaten teref corresponds to the perfection of the altar. To the perfection of the altar, to the altar is in the portion of the Torah. This comes about by way of inherit the wealth of nations, that is by way of proselytes. As our sages interpreted this as referring to the inheritance of a proselyte who has no Jewish heirs. Whoever takes first possession in anything in the estate of a proselyte keeps it. Nanach, nachma, nachma, meuman. Nanach, nachma, nachman, meuman. Nanach, nachma, nanach, nachman, meuman. And number 5, the question is, how does one make proselytes? Aren't they so far from the sanctity of aren't they so far from the sanctity of Israel? From where does the thought to convert even come to their minds? But no, this is caused by way of wealth adds many friends, meaning by way of charity to a Torah scholar who embodies all Jewish souls. For really, how can a Gentile reach the faith of Israel? Since they are so far from the Jewish people, how can we speak to them so that they hear and embrace the holy faith? Or the answer is just like when someone wants to talk with a friend who is very far away, when one cannot talk to him in a way that he will hear. One has to write him a letter. Similarly, we must write a letter so that they will hear, despite their being so far. This is because the sense of hearing is mainly dependent upon the letters articulated during speech, becoming engraved in the air, which then strikes the adjacent air until the sound waves reach the ear of the hearer. Therefore, when the air is clear and pure, the voice of someone speaking can be heard far away, as we see empirically. However, when there is a storm wind, it is impossible to hear others, because the wind disrupts and scatters the sound waves, and one cannot even hear the voice, let alone what the other person is actually saying. But charity amasses souls, for it increases one's friends and supporters, as Munva said, my predecessors amassed wealth, but I amassed souls. Hence, the more charity one gives to more people, the more friends one amasses, and by way of the friendship that one gains through the charity, the air is purified, and the more friendship with the more people, the more the air is calm and purified. This is because love is the binding of a soul with a soul, the soul of the lover with the soul of the beloved, which is represented by calm air, because their spirits, their airs are calm with each other, for there is no evil spirit air, hatred, to separate between them. Hatred is an aspect of an evil spirit, as the verse says, God set an evil spirit between Avimelech and the people of Shechem, which Rashi explains to mean hatred. Hence, hatred is an aspect of an evil spirit, a disruption in the air, causing speech to be unheard. On the other hand, love and friendship are aspects of calm and pure air, causing speech to be heard from afar, from far. This is brought about through charity. As in wealth adds many friends, for by amassing friends and supporters, the air is made calm and pure. The more one gives charity to more people, the more the air is made calmer and purer. For by giving charity to one person, one earns one friend, binding their souls together, creating a small area of calm and pure air. But when one gives charity to two people, the area of calm and pure air is that much greater, and the more people to whom one gives charity, the more one earns more friends. As in wealth adds many friends, and the area of calm and pure air is all that greater. That's all the greater. And the area of calm and pure air is that all the greater. Therefore, the most important thing is to give charity to true tzaddikim, nanach, nachman, meuman, and deserving people who embody many Jewish souls. With this, one greatly increases the area of calm and pure air. For with the charity one gives to them alone, one earns very many friends, for they embody many souls, causing a great increase in the calm and pure air. When the air is calm and pure, the holy speech spoken by someone who can speak, a Jewish word is written and engraved in as in my tongue is a swift scribe's pen, and the speech travels and is heard far away. This is alluded to in word of hymn spread throughout all the states. For when the air is calm and pure, one can hear from afar. These words are then written in the Gentile literature, and each country in its own language, causing the Gentiles to find in their own literature contradictions to their faith. We see indeed that many proselytes converted because of finding contradictions to their faith in their own literature. But how did it happen that they should now find contradictions to their faith? It happened because the words of the tzaddik, nanach, nachma, meuman, were engraved and written in the air. As in my tongue is a swift scribe's pen, and the air was pure and calm, because wealth adds many friends, so that the speech spread, as in word of him spread throughout all the states, and it became engraved and written in their literature. Thus they discovered contradictions to their faith in their own literature, causing them to convert, as stories are told of many proselytes who converted after finding contradictions to their faith in their own literature. This is alluded to in it was found written what Mordechai had told. Mordechai represents the renunciation of idolatry. As the verse says regarding him, a Jewish man, upon which our sages comment, anyone renouncing idolatry is called a Jew. That is the words that Mordechai spoke. Words renouncing idolatry were written in the air until they were eventually found in their own literature. Hence, it was found written what Mordechai had told. Hence it was found written what Mordechai had told, the words of faith of the true tzaddik, nanach, nachman, nachma, meuman, were found written in their own literature for the words of the tzaddik, nanach, nachma, nachma, meuman, traveled afar and became written and engraved in their literature, causing contradictions to their faith to be found in their own literature. The holy words spoken by Mordechai, who represents such a tzaddik, nanach, nachman, nachma, meuman were found in the literature as it was found written what Mordechai had told. Then when Gentiles come and find contradictions to their faith in their own literature, they convert, as in many of the masses converted. Number 6, but why is it that specifically these people find contradictions to their faith in their own literature and come to acknowledge the faith of Israel, while others never find and remain in their faith? No, this is because of the good that is under their dominion. That is, the parts of Jewish souls that are under their dominion. All good is only an aspect of Jewish souls. That is, when the Gentiles rise up and do not allow the Jewish people to fulfill the commandments, as in fact happened in history, when they banned circumcision or observing the Shabbos, causing the good that the Jewish people are supposed to accomplish to now come under the dominion. Similarly, when they indirectly prevent the Jewish people from serving God by imposing various taxes upon them or by withholding some benefits from them, all this causes good parts of Jewish souls to come under their dominion. Initially, this good that is under their dominion remembers that it originated from a very holy and sublime source. But eventually they overpower this good and suppress it under their dominion, causing it to be stuck and trapped in their hands, and the good itself forgets its own status. But when Jewish speech goes out and becomes written in their literature, this good that is under their dominion then finds the contradictions to their faith in their literature. The good then remembers its status, how it comes from a very exalted place, and how it is a part of Jewish souls for whom all the worlds were created. As the verse says, they are the creators who dwell near seedlings together with the king in his work. They are the creators who dwell near seedlings together with the king in his work, for God took counsel with the souls of Israel before he created the world. This good then begins to be pained and yearns for having fallen from such a sublime place and is now under their dominion, headed for spiritual annihilation, causing it to want to return to its status. But since the good has already become very stuck and trapped under them in complex knots, therefore, when it begins to return, it drags along with it a lot of their evil. This is an aspect of the proselytes that come to convert. They are an aspect of the evil that is torn away. They are an aspect of the evil that is torn away from them together with the good. When it returns to its place, the good cannot return on its own, since it is so intricately bound to them in knots, the good thus inevitably tears away with itself some of the evil, which is an aspect of the proselytes. This is alluded to in one will commit himself to God in writing, which Rashi explains as referring to penitence, an aspect of the good that returns to its place, which is caused by an aspect of writing of it was found written. What Mordechai had said. Another way I call himself in Israel's name refers to proselytes, for proselytes come to convert. When good returns heavens, they will not be written in Jewish script, and will not reach the land of Israel, meaning that when the aspect of Jewish script, which causes proselytes, is lacking, they will not reach the land of Israel, meaning that they have not merited the perfection of the altar, which is called an earthen altar, since its perfection is dependent upon proselytes. Everything is written as God gave me to understand, for the perfection of understanding is by way of writing, as said for writing. As in it was found written what Mordechai had said causes Gentiles to convert, and the altar is perfected through converts. And understanding is perfected through the perfection of the altar. Hence understanding is perfected through writing, as alluded to in the verse. Everything is written as God gave me to understand. This is alluded to in the verse, to establish the world under the dominion of Shakai. And all of mankind will call in your name, and all of mankind will call in your name. This is an aspect of repentance in that God returns. This is an aspect of repentance in that good returns to its place. The name Shakai itself alludes to repentance. Nach, nachman, nachma, meuman, repentance from idolatry. For Shakai means, for Shakai means. I taught it. Shakai means my godliness is enough. Shakai, enough for all creatures, and no other service is necessary than to turn all wicked of the earth to you, which refers to converts. And all inhabitants of earth will know and acknowledge, representing the perfection of the understanding. This is alluded to, and Shakai will be with you in your distress. And a fortune of money will be yours. A fortune of money, as in wealth, adds many friends, causing the air to move about, fly, move about. For it has been purified. This brings about an aspect of Shakai, which is repentance of and proselytes, which is repentance and proselytes. For Shakai alludes to repentance as seforim. Nanach, nachman, meuman. Shabbos Kodesh. Koech Saif. Number 7, but no, sometimes when evil sees that good is yearning and drawing itself in desire to return to its place, it rises up greatly against the good, leading it into an even deeper concealment. Nach, nachman, it rises up greatly against the good, leading it into an even deeper concealment. That is, it brings the good into the depth of thoughts, and one begins to think about that good. Think about that good against that good, about that good. Think thoughts out about that good against the good. And then one begins to think about that good. This leads the good into a deeper concealment in the depths of thoughts, from where it emerges through one's offspring. The good had been hidden and concealed in the depths of thoughts and mind, and since that is the source of or propagation. Therefore the good emerges in the form of the children that are born. The evil within these children then has no power to overwhelm the good within them, and this good in the children is then manifested when they become proselytes. This is alluded to in the verse, God will tell. In the Chronicles of Peoples, this one was born their seller. The Chronicles refers to the good that emerges, refers to the good that emerges by way of writing. Thus this one was born and there means that the good is manifested as the children who are born in. Hence Rashi comments there that the verse refers to those Jews who had assimilated among the nations, which is an aspect of the good that is under their dominion, an aspect of the parts of Jewish souls. This is alluded to in, he will not lie down until he has eaten Seiref, corresponding to the perfection of the altar, and drank the blood of corpses, translated by the Targum as inherit the wealth of nations, which refers to proselytes. Thus, the wealth of nations is an aspect of the good that is concealed among the nations, which was brought into deep concealment in the depths of their thoughts, and which then emerges as their children who convert, thus perfecting the altar. Number 8, this is then the meaning of Rav Sifra, Safra. I was once traveling on a ship. This is then the meaning of Rav Safra. This is then the meaning of Rav Safra told, I was once traveling on a ship, and I saw this fish that stuck its head out of the water. It had horns upon which were engraved, I am a lightweight creature of the sea. I was 300 parsa, 350 kilometers away, and now I am headed towards the mouth of the Leviathan to be eaten, the Leviathan, Leviathan to be eaten. Rav Ashi said, that was a sea goat that stirs up the sea with its horns. I saw this fish that stuck its head out of the water. A fish represents the good, represented by the parts of Jewish souls, and the proselytes, fish, which are permitted to be eaten simply by gathering, correspond to the part of the souls. To his spirit and his soul will be gathered to him, an aspect of proselytes, as in the nobles of nations were gathered, for which reason the wise are called gatherers. For they gather the good together with the proselytes, the fish. This good, together with the proselytes, stuck its head out of the water, that is, drew out understanding from the flood of noxious waters. Drew out understanding from the flood of noxious waters, which is the foolishness that floods understanding. It had horns upon which were engraved, I am a lightweight creature of the sea. I was 300 parsa away, and now I am headed towards the mouth of the Leviathan, Leviathan to be eaten. A horn represents charity, as in wealth adds many friends, which is the main enduring capital for the future world. As Munva said, my predecessors amassed below, and I amassed above. This charity caused the engraving, which is an aspect of writing corresponding to word of him spread throughout all the states, spreading to the good that is under the dominion of the nations, arousing to repentance, to return to one's source, for the good then remembers itself. I am a lightweight creature of the sea. This means that it was beyond all worlds. Yam, the sea, is a yud and a mem. The mem, which has 4 sides, represents the 4 worlds, and the yud represents wisdom, which spreads throughout the worlds. As the verse says, you made them all with wisdom. Thus, just like something lightweight floats on top of water, similarly is the soul, which is the good, which is beyond all worlds, referred to as a lightweight creature of the sea, a lightweight creature of the sea. I was 300 parsa away. This refers to the soul recalling its source in Israel arose first in God's mind, and that God took counsel with it before creating the world, as in they are the creatures who dwell near seedlings, together with the king in his work. It thus recalls the lofty level it was once at, and that now it is headed towards annihilation. 300 refers to thought, since thought can be divided into 3 categories: abstract thought, mathematical structural thought, and practical thought. Machshuvos sichliyos, midoisiyos, masiyos, sichliyos, midoisiyos, machshuvo masiyos, sichliyos, midoisiyos, machshuvo masiyos. Abstract thought, mathematical structural thought, practical thought, and practical thoughts, a pavarso, which also means a hoof, or alludes to regel, a foot, which alludes to counsel, as in all the people who are at your feet. Which means who follow your advice. This then means that the soul recalls that it was in the original thought, and that God took counsel with it when He created the world. Now I am headed towards the mouth of the Leviathan, to annihilation. But by having compassion on itself and becoming aroused to return to its source, one causes people to repent or convert. Rav Ashi said, that is a sea goat that stirs up the sea with its horns, a goat, and Iyiyiyiyizo, and Iyiyiyizo represents voice, which is fear, strength, which is fear as in power, which is a fear as in you are the splendor of their ois, their power, their strength. Stirring is an aspect of the tzaddik, nanach, nachman, nachman, who always searches for the grandeur of each and every single Jew. Horns represent in your will. You will raise our horn, which refers to the love that is revealed by the tzaddik, nanach, nachman, nachman, meuman. The tzaddik, nanach, nachman, nachman, meuman is revealed by way of all the above concepts, by way of which fear and love can be attained. This is number 9. This is alluded to in This is alluded to when they were emptying their sacks, corresponding to the heavens donned darkness and sackcloth, where the heavens represent fear and love. When they empty their sack and darkness of fear and love, behold, each one's bundle of money was in his sack. Hey, bundle of money refers to the tzaddik. Nanach, nachman, nachman, meuman. He took the bundle of money in his hand, which Rashi explains to be referring to the tzaddikim. Nanach, nachman, nachman, meuman. In his sack refers to the light of the tzaddik. Nanach, nachman, nachman, meuman. Being darkened and clothed and concealed in darkness and sackcloth. This means that one realizes that the sackcloth and darkness covering fear and love is because of the sackcloth and darkness that darkens the light of the tzaddik. Nanach, nachman, nachman, meuman. They and their father saw their bundles of money. That is, they saw and acknowledged that their bundles of money are dependent upon matter and form, which are called they and their father respectively. They is matter, referring to the body that executes action, and their father is the intellect, understanding, which is called the father, as in a father in wisdom. This means that recognizing, understanding, experiencing and seeing, recognizing, understanding, experiencing, tasting, and seeing the revelation of the light of the tzaddik. Nanach, nachma, nachman, meuman are dependent upon the perfection of action and the purity of the intellect. Their father Jacob then said to them, refers to the rebuke of the intellect. It rebukes the material, the body that executes action, blaming the body for one's flaws. Thus you have bereaved me, for filthy deeds destroy the intellect. Joseph is not here, alludes to wealth. Yosef adds many friends. Shimon is not here, alludes to Oisha. My word of him spread throughout the states, which is caused by wealth and you want to take Benjamin, alludes to the altar which was in the portion of the Torah, who was Benjamin. The main perfection of the intellect is dependent upon this, upon the intellect rebuking and declaring that the main cause of the mind becoming cloudy is the body that executes action, which refers to charity, which is dependent upon action, as in the act of charity. This perfects the intellect. For giving charity draws proselytes, which perfects the altar, which is represented by one's table, meaning that one is able to eat with holiness, with intellect, perfected one's merit. One merits seeing the light of the tzaddik, nanach, nachman, nachman, meuman, by way of which one attains fear and love. Lesson number 8 in the Rebbe's own words of Yonis and told. I was once traveling by ship and I saw this chest in which precious stones and pearls were studded, and birsha fish were circling it. An Amorite swimmer went into the water to fetch it, and it started to move and tried to bite off his leg. He shot a spray of vinegar in its way, and it disappeared. A baskel came out and said, "What are you doing with the chest of Rebbe Chanina ben Dosa's wife? It is going to be used to hold holiest, turquoise-like dye for the tzitzis for the tzaddikim in the future world." Rabbi Yonasan told, "I was once traveling by ship and I saw this chest. No, everything has a purpose, tachlis, and every purpose also has a purpose, higher upon higher. For instance, the purpose of building a house is so that one has a place to rest, and the purpose of rest is so that one has strength to serve God, and the purpose of serving God. Halvai, nanach, nachman, nachman, meuman, nanach, nachman."